Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Charitable and Home Care. Thank you for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. You know, it's during these times where we look at hurricanes, hurricane preparedness, and what time of the year that it is. We think about what we need to do, but maybe, just maybe, we all need a little bit of extra help. We are always glad to turn our attention to Lisa Schilling, who is Executive Director with South Central Louisiana Human Services Authority.
Thank you.
And very glad that you're here and what y'all do. And so let's kind of roll right into what people can be expecting and what we know they can help themselves during this difficult time.
Sure. So it's hurricane season. It is here.
Yep.
And something that we've all been anticipating, I don't know, with great joy, but also with a lot of, caution. And so we want to talk about how you can take care of yourself also while you're preparing. And because we know there's stuff already out there in the Gulf, and, a lot of people have had a lot of fear and concern about that. So you'll just see there on that first slide there that we tell you that you need to get a game plan, be prepared. You can go on getagameplan.org and you can look at how to do that, or you can, contact your local regional public health office and they'll be able to share information with you. It's really important. We all know that now after last year and what we experienced with Hurricane Ida.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about what South Central has to do as part of the tiered state response.
Okay.
So we are a local governing entity. We're contracted with the Louisiana Department of Health. And so we work with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, GOSEP.
Right.
And they take the lead. We also work with LDH, Louisiana Department of Health. And so we work with all of these, but we also work with all of the public health offices in our region, and we work with all of the EOCs. So that's for Assumption, Lafourche, St. Charles, St. John, St. James, St. Mary, and Terrebonne. So we stay pretty busy. We're doing a lot of contacting, finding out what's going on and how we can respond if something happens.
Gotcha.
That next slide, get ready. So just a few things to keep in your back of your mind as you're getting ready, especially for your medical information, copies of your health insurance cards, emergency contacts, physician names and phone numbers, medication allergy, special needs. A lot of people will always write that down and keep that in their purse or their wallet. List of all your medications and also over-the-counter medications. So if you have to, get out of town, then you have that information available.
Right. And not just the meds.
Help.
Right. But not just the meds, the strength. How often you take them.
Definitely.
Because if you have to deal with somebody differently, that's important as well.
Yes, exceedingly important. So then also we'll talk about medication preparation. So usually they say take a 14-day supply of essential medications. And then for us, we'll contact our patients, have them come in, usually 5 days prior to something that's going to make landfall, so we can give them their medications and they have that and they're ready to go.
Right.
Also, they want to make sure that you have any type of injection or substance use medication, that you have that available too. So if it's administered through us, we're going to go ahead and give you that injection so you'll be ready to go, even if it's a little early.
Right. Suboxone. Some of those things, right?
Yeah. And then pick up your medication prescriptions 3 days prior. So if you can contact your local primary care physician and say, look, I know I'm evacuating. I'm not staying here this time. We did that last year. It was not a good thing.
Right.
So we're going to get out. They usually will say, okay, we'll go ahead and write a script for you. You can pick it up.
Right. And get that ahead of time. And again, it's all the part of the planning. Medication planning is a big part of that.
Most definitely. And then the big thing is our medical special needs shelters. So usually they'll set those up and try to set them up not in the specific areas where there's been a lot of damage, but sometimes they have to. And so we do work with Public Health Region 3 for that disaster response. We assign some of our staff members, so nurses or counselors. Sometimes we do put in our providers, so physicians, if they can assist with that. Last year, we spent a great deal of time on our call line. And so we manned our call line and all of our patients could call in. And we had doctors that would write their scripts, get everything they needed, no matter where they were.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge. And because they were gone for so long.
Right.
And so they really needed.
Displaced for a long time.
It was bad. Yeah. And so, and then we also have a little information there that says that, for a medical special needs shelter, you cannot be ill. And you must, provide for your own basic care and also be dependent on electricity, meet the criteria, and be a candidate for services that are in the shelter. And those found to be acutely ill will be referred to local hospitals if available. And if not, then they'll have to send them out.
Okay, very good. And people just need to be aware of that.
Right. Now, we also have a 40-foot mobile unit that's equipped with two examination rooms. We can do nursing services in their education resource. So we'll send that out directly after the storm. We took that out to all areas trying to provide services. We'll staff that with a nurse practitioner, an RN, a counselor. And you see there we do outreach engagement, brief intervention, and counseling, just whatever we can do, resource linkage to try to help individuals.
I think it just made people feel better seeing it.
They did.
It really
They have
did.
somebody out in the community, and we were distributing a lot of supplies as well.
Yeah.
And they needed that.
It was awesome.
Because of Hurricane Ida last year, we have what are called Louisiana Spirit Teams.
Right.
And so these are deployed after any type of disaster. It's funded through HRSA, FEMA, and SAMHSA. So Louisiana Spirit helps people recover. So they will go out in the community, door to door. They're really canvassing for individuals who need help. Right now, they're still in a lot of the trailer parks that we have throughout in shelters.
Right.
We have a program manager and 2 6-member teams, one for the bayou parishes and one for the river parishes.
Right.
And then on that next slide, you'll see that they provide group and individual counseling, supportive educational contacts, media and public service announcements, and they help people understand the current situation they're in and help them deal with their reactions. And they do a lot of stress reduction activities, providing emotional support, and just helping them, teaching them tools for self-reliance and goal setting and getting back into, their secure environment if they can.
But now let's talk a little bit about some of the things people are dealing with since the last storm.
Oh my goodness. So it's been a lot, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stress that's going on and anxiety. But let's talk first about what natural disasters can lead to. So it can exacerbate a lot of conditions, but most importantly for us with behavioral health, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
Right.
Anxiety, depression, and substance use. So we know that we've seen a lot of that already in the community and things that are going on with a lot of the things, our clients, some of them being arrested, they're getting in trouble with the law. So they're experiencing a lot of different things.
Right.
I really wanted to focus right now on the post-traumatic stress disorder. So June is PTSD Awareness Month.
All right.
And so I think, it just all kind of flows together and fits in the fact that we're back into hurricane season and people are really feeling this right now.
Okay.
They're really feeling a lot of the symptoms that you will have with that. So we see that it's a psychiatric disorder that can occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, such as a natural disaster, is what we have with Hurricane Ida.
Right.
And then also with serious accidents or terrorist attack, anything like that. A lot of people always think of this, I think, more with veterans, PTSD and things like that. But certainly we had an event last year that, mirrors everything that goes on with this. So you have intense, disturbing thoughts and feelings related to the experience.
Right.
And then they may relive the event through flashbacks or nightmares and feel sadness or fear or anger. I think this was really brought into focus with me during the month of April. So when we had those 4 weeks in a row where there was bad weather events, and we thought, okay, what does this mean? There's all the winds, there's rain, there's going to be flooding. And we knew this was going to be a problem, but it really came to fruition when we were looking at our call line numbers.
Okay.
So not only for individuals in the community who are living all of this all over again, but also for our staff, a lot of our staff who are still trying to get back into their homes.
Right.
So our number of calls increased by 85% in the month of April.
85%.
Yeah. And then our number of referrals or actions taken was up by 95%. So we went from 91 to 168 calls, 145 actions to 285. These were people calling in and they were so stressed over that event. We put out information over on our Facebook page and social media to get education out. It's just huge.
Yeah, and quite frankly, we've got such a larger percentage of the population, and it's across the board, about people who are in temporary housing.
Yes.
And I think that probably really aided to some of the issues and some of the trauma that people were maybe potentially expecting with storms.
They were being told on the news, a newscaster, if you're in a trailer, you need to go somewhere where you'll be safe. Go where family who live in a home, go somewhere. They opened some of the shelters back up so people could go overnight. I think that was huge. Just reliving it all over again.
Right. It brought back all those emotions and feelings, and that's what PTSD is.
Right. So we talk about groups with different behavioral health needs too. So people that are at risk of developing behavioral health problems, so anxiety, depression, substance use, who have continuing needs for mental health services, but whose care is interrupted. And then people whose involvement in disaster provokes to participate. So relapse, we know a little bit about that. And people who are responders and whose mental health might be affected. So I don't want to leave those out because our first responders, this is big PTSD for them too, getting back out in the community, having to deal with this all over again for 6 more months.
Sure.
So disaster effects on individuals. So stress reactions, you and I both know this very well through our counseling
That is correct.
background. So it's similar to common reactions after any trauma. So some of those reactions may include feelings of hopeless about the future, they're detached or unconcerned, jumpy, and getting started, and then also having disturbing dreams and memories of flashbacks and trouble making decisions, work or school problems.
Yeah, and just the major interruptions in our day-to-day life is what we see with those stressors.
Most definitely. So I'll just hit a little bit too on specifically like the emotional responses to stress.
Okay.
Feeling nervous, helpless, or fearful, shocked, numb, avoiding people and places, being irritable or having outbursts of anger. So you start to see that, and then that leads to substance abuse and other things, domestic violence, becoming easily upset or agitated, blaming yourself for negative views, distrust of others. You also have being withdrawn, feeling rejected, and then loss of intimacy sometime as well. You just really put distance between yourself and your loved ones.
And that's just when any small amount of stress can come up, we can have all of these emotional reactions, or any of these.
Most definitely. And then the physical reactions to stress too. So it's not just about, the mental component. You can be stomach upset, trouble eating, trouble sleeping, and feeling very tired. I think a lot of people are already just so tired from the past year and saying, can we do this again? Really? Can we do this again?
Storm weary.
Yes. Pounding heart, rapid breathing, sweating, severe headaches. Just the thought or the conversation about another hurricane season or something coming toward us, failure to gauge in some of their normal activities. So exercise, diet, all of those things, and then excess smoking, alcohol, drugs. Here, once again, we're talking about, well, let me do something that's going to take some of that away from me. This is something I've done in the past. It gave me a really good feeling, a euphoria, even if it was just for a moment. And then you get addicted and hooked again.
Right. And so those are some of the things that we look at that holistic perspective. You and your team are really good about looking at everything. It's not just about that event coming up, but it's the stressors, what those stressors can bring on with the emotional issues. And very often those emotional and physical work together. And it's something your counselors are really great at recognizing and identifying in the need.
It is, and we have an integrated care program. So we do the primary care, the behavioral health, we're all in one building, and so they can really talk back and forth and try to come up with a really good person-centered plan that focuses on just what that individual's needs are.
Now let's talk a little bit about how maybe we cope with those things.
Yeah, so lots of different avenues to be able to do that. The first really big thing that is just to be able to talk about what you're feeling. So, you can relieve stress, you can share your feelings. Really important to be able to do that. Some people have a hard time doing that.
Right.
Spend time with your friends and family. Those people that really bring you lots of joy, and give you the support you need to make sure you're doing that. Take care of yourself. So, we may not all do a very good job of that. I'm going to raise my hand on that one.
I'm sitting here next to you agreeing with you, and I concur.
But we do want to help the people that really need the help too. But you also need to take care of yourself in the process.
Some rest and exercise is always good.
Yes. So limit exposure to disaster images too, which, we're just seeing a plethora of them right now because you see that, all of the weather meteorologists and all are talking about how you can prepare and don't do this and whatever. And think scenes from Ida and everything are still very prevalent in everything that we're watching. So kind of just limit your exposure if you can.
All the legal commercials
Yes.
showing, what
Oh,
you need to
gosh.
do now. And so but
Yeah.
you're right. Limit that.
Find time for activities that you really enjoy so you can kind of keep yourself in check. Some of the movies are opening back up.
Right.
Read the book,
Right.
go for a walk.
Healthy activities.
Healthy activities.
Right.
That's the main thing.
Right.
Take one thing at a time, and I'll add to that one day at a time.
Yeah.
Just really be present and focus on what's going on with you right now. Try not to think ahead, and try not to think backwards either.
Right.
Focus on right now.
Moving forward.
Right. And do something positive. I see there, give blood, care packages, volunteer. Those are all wonderful things that you can do. Reach out to, elderly people and talk to them. They always need someone to kind of cheer them up too.
Right.
avoid drugs and excess drinking. There we go again.
Right.
I mean, man, we live down here in South Louisiana, so it's always you ready for a party and
Right.
do something like that. Just kind of keep it in check, and
Right.
try not to get too much excess with that.
Right. You can revolve some steam, but it doesn't necessarily have to be with a lot of drugs and alcohol.
That's it. Biggest thing.
Right.
Ask for help. So if your feelings, you don't feel like they're going away, your stress and anxiety is getting worse, you need to be able to ask for help, and don't be afraid to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like the first one. You got to be able to talk about it. Be okay with talking about it.
Right.
Being okay with asking for help. It's a good
Right.
starting point and ending point with that.
Yes. So signs that more help may be needed. So for some people that trauma is very difficult, they develop depression or grief or anger, and they're really turning away from everything that may have brought them joy or people or whatever. So some of those signs are excessive worry. They just cannot stop talking about it. It's just rolling in their head and they keep going over it, crying frequently, becoming more irritable and angry, also wanting to be alone. They just don't want to be around anybody. They just can't see a way out of that situation. Feeling anxious and fearful. Also having trouble thinking clearly. I might have some of that myself sometime. We talk about that at work. And here we go again, using more alcohol or other substances. We have substances. There's a plethora of them on the streets. We have a lot of our patients that are coming in. We're doing Suboxone. We're doing Vivitrol. Now, there's a new methadone clinic here in our
Right.
area, which is really good because we only have one in St. John Parish for a while. But we would like for you to get to a place that you can stop some of that abuse before you get to that point.
Right. And before those stressors get worse and we rely back on those behaviors and
Right.
then we spin out of control.
Exactly. And then they're experiencing more physical pains and aches and things like that. So
Okay.
just a lot. I do want to focus a little bit too, though, on helping our children.
Okay.
So I think that's really important because we talk about the adults, but I don't really leave the children out. And this is really important right now because of everything that's going on in our country.
Right.
And the shootings that they had at Uvalde. And this is about helping children through any type of disaster. So not just a hurricane or things like that, but
Okay.
provide children with opportunities to talk about what they're seeing on television and what they're hearing, and let them ask questions.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to admit that you don't have the answers to all their questions.
Yeah, we don't have to be that end all be all resource. We can just say, I don't know, but I'll check.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'll try to get you that answer.
Right.
Once again, just letting them talk, doesn't matter when or where. And also maybe use this as a chance to establish a family emergency plan. So letting them be a part of that planning process. They can discuss their fears and concerns. They can monitor your children's television watching. That's really huge too. Like, they don't need to be watching all of everything that's going on. Help them understand that there are no bad emotions,
Okay.
and that you can have a wide range of emotions all at one time.
a really
And
good
then try
recommendation.
not to focus blame on anything, and just help them really try to identify the good things in situations and daily activities.
Okay. Bring them back to the good stuff.
Bring them back. Yeah.
right.
So here we go. So treatment. So most importantly, ask for help when you need it.
Yep.
If your feelings don't go away, then make sure that you're seeking help. Make an appointment with a mental health professional. Join a support group. Don't try to cope on this or do this by yourself. And to remember that asking for help is not a sign of weakness.
It
I know
is
a lot of
not.
people do that,
Yep.
but it is not.
No. Ask for help.
Yeah, and then just a little bit about what counseling can provide. And so you get an ear for listening. You get adult and child needs assessments. You get substance abuse, integrated care, education on diagnosis and symptoms, review of disaster recovery options, stress management. That's huge. General support, linkage to resources in the community, and just assisting individuals in returning to their pre-disaster level of functioning, which is really huge if we can get them to that point.
Absolutely. And Jay, put that last slide up. I want people to know where they can get help. These are all the areas that people can go and get help. The number at the bottom, very important. Lisa referenced it earlier.
It's our call line.
It's
Yep.
the call line. It's the starting point, 1-877-500-9997. Lisa, always appreciate all the wonderful information
Thank
and
you.
better ways that we can deal with things. So thanks for
Thank you.
joining
Let's
us
hope
today.
that we have a very shallow hurricane season.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Very shallow. All right, guys, that will do it for this particular Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming here on HTV.